much for being here today. This is a glorious day of unity, solidarity and togetherness with the Iranian labor movement, with the Iranian progressive uprising, with millions of young women and men, with 18,000 of those who are in prison and being tortured by the Iranian murderous regime. I personally want to thank John McDonnell, Jeremy Corbyn, and other comrades from trade unions and Labour Party of being here, supporting the Iranian working class and demonstrating the solidarity. That is quite important. Today, we got a unity across Europe, Canada, and United States of trade unions, of left-wing parties, and all those progressive forces who stand in solidarity with Iranian working class. Stay in solidarity, defend the Iranian uprising, defend the Iranian women movement for equality and labor movement for equality and freedom. Thank you very much. Member of the Labour Party here to express his solidarity, and it's really great to see Jeremy Corbyn here. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me a couple of minutes to speak to you. First of all, well done all for being here, and well done here for coming here for the protest about the executions in Iran, the abominable treatment of women in Iran, and the killing particularly of young women who are undertaking their right to dress the way they will, as young women and young people all over the world want to do that as well. So it's our support and solidarity with them. And it's also solidarity with the trade union movement in Iran and the imprisoned political activists all over Iran who've stood up for working class rights, stood up for bus workers, rail workers, and many, many other groups. And so it is a question of solidarity of working class communities here with working class communities in Iran. I just wish more of our media understood something about the structure of Iran at the present time, the oppression of large numbers of people in different areas of Iran, and also understood something of the history of Iran and the British involvement in Iran going right back to the coup in 1952, which destroyed so much of the hopes of the people of Iran at that time. But today we make the very simple call. Capital punishment is wrong under any circumstances for anybody. We have to say end all executions, whether they're public, private or whatever. Executing anyone is absolutely wrong. Also stand up for individual prisoners of conscience that are there in Iran, as Amnesty and other organisations have pointed out, but also stand up for the collective organisations, particularly the trade unions and human rights groups that are being so demonised, oppressed and made illegal within Iran. And so it is a question of that solidarity of people taking that action. And my solidarity with the huge Iranian diaspora community in Britain that came here from the time of the Shah, came here from the time of the Khomeini revolution in 1979, and have come here consistently ever since. You're welcome. You're very, very welcome. Your knowledge and your experience is vital, and your contribution both to the labour and socialist movement in this country as well as back home in Iran is absolutely vital. We need that solidarity. Solidarity between political activists and unions here with exactly the same in Iran. That is what will bring about hope and bring about change in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, comrades. My name's Daniel Randall. I'm a railway worker, a workplace representative and a branch official in the RMT union. I'm the vice chair of the RMT Bakerloo Line branch, and I can say that as of last night my union branch has become the first British trade union body to formally back this solidarity committee. I hope it will be the first of many, potentially leading to support at regional and national level within my union. I won't speak for very long. I just want to make a few basic points, and what I want to stress primarily is the importance of internationalism as a principle of working class politics, and talk a little about what that can mean practically. The working class is a global class producing wealth in a global system, and part of what I hope that the work of this campaigning committee can be about is reaffirming that reality, explaining it, educating for it, within the British Labour movement to stress the imperative for solidarity with our comrades in Iran, and as far as possible via making practical direct links with Iranian workers, women and youth. What I think the uprising in Iran asserts is that the values and principles of freedom and equality are not the property of any one nation. They're certainly not so-called Western values. They are universal principles, and a key part of our internationalism must be to support struggles aiming to make them universally applicable and accessible. And I want to say a couple of words here about how this connects with struggles that are taking place in this country. Since this committee was founded on the 1st of February last week, we've seen the biggest strike in this country for a decade, part of the biggest strike wave for a generation, with 500,000 workers on strike on the 1st of February. That's a strike wave that many of us have been directly involved in, either as participants in our own workplaces or as supporters. And our government is attempting to cut that off by further restricting and criminalising strike action. Now, it would be utterly misplaced to draw any direct comparison between what we're facing and the struggles being faced in Iran. The situation in terms of formal legal rights and certainly the scale of repression is wildly different. Nevertheless, I think we can acknowledge some common threads in our struggles. Struggles not only the basic necessities of life, but for the rights to organise, strike and protest. And I was pleased to see that this committee issued a statement of solidarity with the 1st of February strike and the strike wave, making some of those connections. And those are links I hope we can deepen and pursue. The last time this committee met, I spoke about the centrality of working class agency to any struggle for social transformation. And that's not about narrowing our horizons to only focus on struggles that take place in workplaces. It's about understanding that the working class, in all its diversity, holds a unique position within any capitalist society. A position that gives our class the leverage and potential power to catalyse and lead revolutionary change. And that's why the name of this committee focuses on that key element of working class agency. And despite decades of brutal repression, Iran's workers have maintained heroic and inspiring traditions of independent organisation and struggle across a variety of industries. And a key part of our role, particularly for those of us who are active in the British Labour movement, and if you're not, I urge you to join a union and become active in the British Labour movement. A key part of our role is to amplify those struggles, inform workers and unions, hear about them, and seek direct links and practical solidarity. So I just want to conclude on a note about what practical solidarity looks like. I think the traditions in which we stand and seek to honour are the traditions of Scottish factory workers who refused to repair jet engines for Pinochet's regime. They're the traditions of dockers who've refused to load munitions bound for authoritarian regimes. They're the traditions further back of Lancashire cotton workers who took action in the 1860s against slavery. They're the traditions of working class people all over the world organising to leverage our class power in support of and to make solidarity with the struggles of workers elsewhere. And this committee is about finding ways to do that within the British Labour movement in solidarity with struggles in Iran. So I hope you can join us at our meeting in Parliament to discuss how we can take that forward practically. Solidarity, comrades. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Dashti Jamal and I am a member of the Committee of the Solidarity with the Worker Movement in Iran. I warmly welcome you to today's rally in front of the UK Parliament on behalf of the Committee of Solidarity with the Iranian Workers Movement. We are gathered to show our strong support for the 4 months uprising of Iranian workers, women, and the youth against the conservative and oppressive regime. We are here today to express our solidarity with the Iranian workers' movement, which is being brutally suppressed by an anti-workers regime. Today is a day of the action internationally. This rally is supported by a number of the trade unions across Europe, America and Canada. the leader of the uprising are being tortured, imprisoned in a country where the formation of the independent trade union, strike and demonstration calling for the basic rights are considered crimes. The result being imprisonment, torture, and even execution. For 4 months, Iranian women have taken to the street to demand the most basic right, freedom of dress, and end to the forced hijab. Sadly, many of the young girls have been killed, maimed, tortured, and sexually assaulted in prison. Young individuals who want to live and think freely like their counterpart around the world have been murdered, executed, or imprisoned. For 4 months, teachers, the unemployed, and the deprived have been shooting that they do not want to live in complete poverty under the Islamic regime's rule. The Iranian people have spoken out against the 40 years rule of the Islamic regime of Iran, demand freedom, equality, and a dignified, modern, and a human life. They want to live like us, but the Islamic regime of Iran responds by killing, imprisonment, execution, and terror. Following the murder of Mahsa Amini by the Iranian regime moral police, simply because they did not like her hijab, this mass movement of workers, women, and the youth exploded and spread throughout Iran, shaking the very foundation of the Islamic Republic. Its slogan is "Women, Life, Freedom." The Iranian people want to overthrow the regime and establish a political system based on the free will of people to participate in the political affair. The Solidarity Committee with the Iranian Workers' Movement, which formed in the British Parliament November 2022 by John MacDonald, with the several British trade unions, activists, and a number of women's rights activists, is working to isolate the Islamic Republic of Iran, put pressure on the Islamic regime to stop killing, imprisonment, and execution of demonstrators, labor leaders, and political activists. It worked to attract the support of the British Labour movement, left, humanitarian, and progressive organization, and personal alike for the mass uprising and the Iranian labor movement. The committee focused on the women's issue and opposition to the gender apartheid in Iran. This committee aimed to put pressure on the Islamic regime to stop the repression and killing of demonstrators and to recognize the freedom of dress, freedom of organized independent labor organization, and freedom of political activity. Abolish the death penalty, abolish the morality police, release all political prisoners, those who shot at people, tortured demonstrators, and sentenced demonstrators to death should face a legal persecution. The committee closely monitor the continued protests and strike of Iranian workers in the oil and gas, half-tapper, sugar industry workers, teacher, bus driver, nurse. The committee also believes the international solidarity with the working class struggle for freedom is a fundamental principle of the labor movement. Through its pressure on the British government, the committee is working to close the Iranian embassy in Britain and expel its diplomat. At the trade union level, It worked to expel the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran from the IOO. It's also worked to allow the Iranian people to freely decide their political destiny without outside interference. I ask that we all work together to strengthen this committee.
Now, can I just ask my colleague Sattar Rahmani to come up here and give us a bit of an update about where we are. Today, as I mentioned earlier, is the start of a global campaign to bring various trade unions across the globe in support of the movement in Iran, and it's really, really pleasing to see that within a short period of time we've had tens of trade unions from different countries, from France, from Italy, from Sweden. They all have come and joined this campaign. Now I think you'll be we're really pleased to have Sattar Rahmani here, who has been in contact with various trade unions across the globe. Sattar.
As you know, we are gathered here to support the workers' movement in Iran, and the Committee of the Solidarity with Workers movement started this, establishing this campaign several weeks ago. And the purpose of the campaign was to bring a message from the British trade union, pass the solidarity message to workers in Iran. That was the basic demand we asked from the trade union in UK. But we went further, and after a few weeks we decided to have more countries to get involved in this campaign. So we approached French trade unions, CGT, and the collective of the trade unions. They accepted. They have rally now in Paris. We asked Denmark trade unions, and we faced with tens of trade unions. I would say all of the trade unions in Denmark are marching now in Copenhagen street. And also we asked DGB, the biggest trade union in Germany, to join us, and it happened. They had meeting conference yesterday in Berlin. They decided to have a solidarity message with this campaign, but they sent the message. And in one of the cities called, some trade union activists have demonstration today in solidarity with workers in Iran, and also in Canada. We have the Cube, the biggest, I would say, trade union in Canada, send solidarity message, and also they're having online meetings. In other countries as well, we have a message. I just had a message this morning from Education International, EI, which has 107 countries, trade union, teachers trade union members. They had a meeting, they had a conference today, and from that conference, David Edwards, the General Secretary of Education International, sent a solidarity message to this committee, and also many others. We expected to have a demonstration rally today, but I haven't heard any message from so far from Turkey, but they were supposed to have the solidarity demonstration today as well in Spain, as well as some other countries like Norway. I don't know whether they're having this demonstration today or not, but we have a solidarity message from inside the country, Iran, which from the syndicate of Wahid trade union, and also we have a solidarity message from a free trade union in Iran, and also another message from the biggest oil and gas refinery workers and the coordinated council of workers for gas and oil in Iran. They sent a solidarity message as well. So teachers union, they just passed a voice message, and the coordinated council of the teachers trade union in Iran passed the solidarity message. So this was just a good beginning, I suppose, and also it was the beginning to have solidarity with workers worldwide, not just Britain, but with other Europe countries, plus America, and inside Iran. So we will continue this campaign until we get rid of the Islamic Fascism. Thank you.
Thank you. I ask Diana Nami to come and join us and say a few words. She's here. Okay. And we'll be in about 5 minutes. We'll start moving to Betty Booth Road committee room for the public meeting. Diana Nami.
Hi everyone, thank you so much Jeremy Corbyn and McDonald and everyone else who have been involved in this organizing this very important solidarity union and groups, which I am honored to be one of those members in this group. I am director of ICRO Women's Rights Organization in the UK, and I am talking in solidarity to the workers in Iran, to the women life freedom revolution in Iran, and to make sure that as a member of the society, do not let the right wing and the imams and Shah to come to power again in the sense in Iran. And it is very important that we remember that during the Shah time, we had no leader to the demonstration and the revolution. And it was the opportunity for Western countries like UK, like America and others to bring Khomeini back, to oppress the very left-wing revolution in Iran. We don't want to let that happen again in Iran. People in Iran very well know that what they want is to topple this regime and to bring the rule of councils to the country to be run by people through its council, and make sure that there is not any Shah or any Sheikh to take part or to take over or to take opportunity of the situation. We are very much behind the revolution and sending our support. We are very much demanding the stop of execution in Iran and free all the political prisoners in Iran. Long live solidarity, women's rights, freedom. Jai Azadi.
Azar Majidi to come up and say a few words. Azar Majidi is a women's rights activist. For many years she's been campaigning for women's liberation in Iran, and we're very pleased to have you here.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. It's so encouraging and heartwarming to see this solidarity. It's so important that the progressive working class movement and left. Can you hear me? Is it okay now? I'm not used to it. Okay. Well, I'm not only a women's rights for liberation activist. women's rights movement, with all this freedom and equality-seeking movement in Iran, it's important that we have our working class and leftist movement standing with this movement. We have to support the movement in Iran, but we have to also be careful of, as John very well put it, that people of Iran must decide. We do not want another regime change. A regime change in 1979 brought the Islamists. They're trying to bring the previous regime back again. And this we should stand against. This we need your solidarity for. We need you to be aware. We do not want another regime change like Iraq, like Afghanistan, like Syria, or like 1979 in Iran. People in Iran, they know what they want. They want a society that creates freedom, equality, and prosperity for all. They do not want any intervention from the US, from Britain, from NATO. They have to decide for themselves. And that's why it's so important to have the leftists, to have the progressives, to have the labor and working class movement here, standing with the movement in Iran. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and we are also together with the working class movement that's happening now in Britain, which is historical, and work for its victory, for a better society in Britain. Thanks again for your solidarity. Thanks again for standing with us.
My name is Richard Bergen. I'm the Labour Member of Parliament for Leeds East, and I'm pleased to be with you today to offer my solidarity to all the Iranian people campaigning for and struggling for an end to oppression, for human rights and for democracy. In Parliament, in the recent debate on the situation in Iran, I focused on the use of the death penalty in Iran. Already 4 people have been executed following this uprising. Amnesty International have spoken out against it, so have others. Many more are at risk of the death penalty being applied to them. We need to be clear. The use of capital punishment in Iran and around the world needs to stop, and needs to stop now. That needs to be a message coming from all of us in this campaign. This uprising, this campaign, started by being led by women, courageous women, inspiring women, rising up against oppression and against injustice and for human rights and for democracy. And now we see this campaign expanding, so it's now also being driven by students, by workers, by trade unionists. And this campaign is so necessary when you see the use of the death penalty, but also when you see the imprisonment of tens of thousands of people whose only crime is to stand up for a better, more just society in Iran. And we see and we're alarmed that even children are being put in prison. It's being reported that the average age of people in prison following this democratic uprising is the age of just 15. We see reports of children being tried in adult courts. That has to stop. We need an end to the executions, an end to the unjust imprisonment of tens of thousands, and also an end to the trying of children in adult courts. And it's so vitally important as well that the labour and trade union movement in this country and around the world supports the labour and trade union movement in Iran. And that's why I welcome John McDonnell and other colleagues establishing the Solidarity Committee with the workers' movement in Iran. When you look back at the history of the Tehran bus strike and all the other trade union movements there, it's so important that we offer our full solidarity to those fighting for employment rights, trade union rights and all of the democratic rights in Iran. So I'm proud to be with you today in solidarity. I bring greetings also from my constituents in Leeds East who stand shoulder to shoulder with you in your campaign for justice and an end to oppression. Solidarity.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.